You're listening to a 58 Ember production.
Welcome to Skytalkers. Here are your hosts, Charlotte and Caitlin.
Hello, and welcome to Skytalkers. I'm your host, Charlotte.
Hey, everyone. I'm your other host, Caitlin, and welcome to this week's episode of Skytalkers, where we're coming to you with some breaking news, which is not normal for us. We don't usually...
This isn't normal. This isn't normal.
This is so beyond abnormal that we... Guys, you know what was supposed to come out this week? Our conversation on Mortis in the Clone Wars. That's how paramount this breaking news was, that we were like,
I think we need to move that off a week.
But we gotta bump Mortis. That's when you know it's real.
It's so big. Okay, so just to date where we are in time, because who knows how this conversation is going to evolve, we are recording this on Tuesday, October 21st, 2025, and this news broke last night around 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, October 20th, 2025. I feel like dates are really important when we're talking about things as big as this, okay? So I just want to date us. And I'm sure you've seen it from the headline. Everyone's talking about it online. Of course, your local Ben Solo, Kylo Redemption stands have to weigh in, and that's us. And we are your local stands.
Your local retired Raylos. Not retired, but it's been retired on the podcast.
I'm not retired. I'm not retired.
But I just mean we haven't... I was typing up some notes for us last night to talk about.
Caitlin, I think last episode I just talked about Ben Solo the entire for a long period of time.
I can't. It's like I've truly kind of blacked out for the last 24 hours.
And then the previous episode too. It's like
the last time we talked about Ben Solo.
Caitlin, I bring it up all the time.
I know we do, but it just this feels so different. You know what I mean? It feels different.
It feels different.
It feels different.
So okay, so the title. I don't know what we're going to call this, but this is about the fact that Adam Driver dropped some serious tea about how he has been working since the end of The Rise of Skywalker to bring Ben Solo back and create a movie with Steven Soderbergh.
Okay.
Period. And Lucasfilm loved it. Period. He brought it to Disney. Period. They said no. Period. Bob Iger.
Said no. Period.
Said no. Period. There's so much to unpack. We have to unpack it all. I think we need to start with, first off, the tweet that broke this story. And the tweet is from Jake Coyle of the Associated Press. And the tweet says, quote, "I recently sat down with Adam Driver and came away with some news. He and Steven Soderbergh spent 2 years developing a Star Wars movie that Disney ultimately nixed. Story here." And
AP news.
Yeah, it doesn't get more direct than this. Also, something to note that I don't think a lot of people are noting. Adam has talked to this reporter often in cycles of press and feels like this is a trusted source. So revealing this, I think, there's a lot to unpack there. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but this is a frequent press opportunity for him and Adam Driver. Okay? Caitlin, why don't you take it away and read all the Star Wars bits from this AP article?
Okay, yeah. So this was a longer article. Adam is currently doing promotions for his upcoming movie with Jim Jarmusch, which is called Father, Mother, Sister, Brother. And this will actually be Adam's third film with this director, which includes Patterson and The Dead Don't Die. And you and I really love Patterson. So.
Patterson's great. I liked The Dead Don't Die too, by the way.
I did too, but Patterson is kind of like a comfort movie for me. I love that movie. Anyway, so that's what the conversation, that's what the article is actually about, is kind of him working with these different directors and things like that. So
as they usually are, I just want to say this. AP is like an aggregate in a lot of ways. They do their own original reporting, but I don't know if a lot of people know this, but like that's why a lot of things are brought in, Caitlin.
Mm-hmm.
It's like an SEO driver thing.
Yeah. So at the beginning of the article, there is just one note that I want to point out, is that the reporter and Adam Driver, I guess they're like in his office or it's on Zoom or something like that. And basically the reporter makes a note that there's a photograph on Adam Driver's desk of him and his son on the Millennium Falcon. And that also feels monumental to me.
Huge.
In a lot of ways.
Huge.
Massive.
Huge.
So anyway, okay, here's where the Star Wars portion of the article starts. So the article is talking about, of course, Adam working with these different directors, and it starts saying, quote, "But Driver's faith in filmmakers isn't always shared by the powers that be in the industry. In a lengthy conversation that often touched on Driver's concerns about current Hollywood trends, he revealed that he and Steven Soderbergh spent 2 years developing a Star Wars film that was ultimately nixed by the Walt Disney Company. I was always interested in doing another Star Wars," says Driver, who starred as Kylo Ren in the trilogy kicked off by The Force Awakens. "I have been talking about doing another one since 2021. Kathleen Kennedy had reached out. I always said, with a great director and a great story, I'd be there in a second. I loved that character and I loved playing him." Driver says he took a concept to Soderbergh for a film that would take place after 2019's The Rise of Skywalker. That movie culminated in Ren's redemption and apparent death. Driver had undertaken the trilogy with an arc in mind that Kylo Ren that inverted the journey of Darth Vader. As the trilogy evolved, it didn't play out that way. Driver felt that there was unfinished business for Kylo Ren, or as he was known before turning to the dark side, Ben Solo. Soderbergh and Rebecca Blunt outlined a story that the group then pitched to Kennedy, Lucasfilm Vice President Carrie Beck, and Lucasfilm Chief Creative Officer Dave Filoni. They were interested, so the filmmakers then pulled in Scott Z. Burns to write a script. Driver calls the result, quote, "one of the coolest," expletive, "scripts I have ever been a part of. We presented the script to Lucasfilm. They loved the idea. They totally understood our angles and why we were doing it," Driver says. "We took it to Bob Iger and Alan Bergman, and they said no. They didn't see how Ben Solo was alive, and that was that. It was called The Hunt for Ben Solo, and it was called The Hunt for Ben Solo, and it was really cool," adds Driver. "But it is no more, so I can finally talk about it." Soderbergh, in a statement, said, "I really enjoyed making the movie in my head. I'm just sorry the fans won't get to see it." Representatives for Disney and Lucasfilm declined to comment. It's been a period of transition for the feature film's operations of Star Wars. Kennedy, the longtime Lucasfilm president, is expected to step down by the end of the year. After a feature film lull, numerous projects are in various stages of development or production, including Jon Favreau's The Mandalorian and Grogu, Sean Levy's Starfighter with Ryan Gosling, a film directed by Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy featuring Daisy Ridley returning as Rey, a James Mangold-directed movie, and a new saga helmed by Simon Kinberg. For Driver, who starred in Soderbergh's 2017 heist comedy Logan Lucky, the decision was mystifying. Who wouldn't want to be in a Soderbergh-directed Star Wars film? "We wanted to be judicial about how to spend money and be economical with it and do it for less than most, but in the same spirit of what those movies are, which is handmade and character-driven," Driver says. "Empire Strikes Back being, in my opinion, the standard of what those movies were. But he is, to me, one of my favorite directors of all time. He lives his code, lives his ethics, doesn't compromise." It's a lot. A lot.
It's a lot.
To set the scene, I was in Barnes & Noble with a friend last night, and she was buying Allie Hazelwood's new book. You know Allie Hazelwood of Reylo fanfic fame. We just had she's had like 3 books come out in the last month. But anyway, she was buying one of Allie Hazelwood's latest books. And I'm also buying a book, and I'm standing in the checkout line waiting to check out, scrolling Twitter. And I see this tweet pop up, and it was kind of one of I'm sorry, what? You know, the headline, Adam Driver pitched Ben Solo movie. And I'm standing there like, what? I'm sorry. Is this real? And I immediately check out and say a really quick goodbye to my friend, because I'm like, I can't really process this and with someone else right now who's not like fully in the circle. And I just need to get into my car and figure out what's going on.
What is going on?
And I sent it to you, and I was like,
it's big when you send it to me off platform. Like, you texted it to me.
Yeah.
You texted me the tweet instead of sending it to me on Twitter. I was like,
she's got to see this now.
It was nuts. And I was so brave. I went to like a dinner party last night, and I didn't talk about it until the very end of the night. I'm so brave.
How did you do that?
I recorded a TikTok, and I left it at that.
Charlotte was driving to the party, and she called me, and we're talking about it, but I'm just kind of functioning as Twitter for her on the phone, reading the tweets as I scroll through while she's driving.
And the thing is what all of this showed is a little bit of a dichotomy between me and Caitlin around how we take these pieces of news. Okay. For me, I was spinning it as optimistic. Okay. Immediately, I was like, this is a PR move. This is 100%. He's testing the waters. They're pulling a Deadpool, and Adam is now openly breaking an NDA to talk about this in order to show the fact that the public really wants this and to prove that Bob Iger made a mistake. And I don't know what the end result of that, but the end result of Ryan Reynolds putting out test footage of Deadpool is the Deadpool was made and broke records as an R-rated comedy action movie and continues to, and now is a trilogy. So it's interesting when you put it in that perspective. And I think that I work in social media. I have a PR brain a lot of the time, and I'm like, this feels crazy that this would go out this way. And also, like I mentioned like 10 minutes ago, the reporter that Adam talked to is known to Adam. The comfort level is high. So the handling of this, yes, the comfort level, the trust, the prestige, I think, of going to a reporter for the Associated Press and saying this, knowing that it will get the type of legs that it needs. This is the part of my brain that is rationalizing this whole thing. I don't want to say, I know that the entire article says that it's dead, but it can't be. Simply, it cannot be. So on the phone, Caitlin's like, this is crazy. I don't know what, like spiraling. And I'm like,
I need you, like, I can't handle your optimism right now. Like, I need you to stop, like, tone it down a little bit because I'm not there.
and our friend group too were like, damn, what a bummer. And I'm like, no, you need to we need to get into the bargaining phase. Okay, the bargaining phase needs to come into play because we're almost there.
See, Charlotte just always immediately goes to the bargaining phase, and I'm like, I've got to travel there. And when everyone else in the friend group is not bargaining, and then Charlotte's texting like, "This is fine, guys," I'm like, it's
the insanity level is crazy. I know, I realize that. No, the emotions are insane because of course you see this and you're like, wait, this isn't happening, and then it just continues to spiral, right? So everyone's tweeting about how cool this would be. People I didn't even know were Kylo Ren fans are tweeting about this.
Right.
Bummed out. I didn't know that this many people cared. However, we do know that this many people cared because, as we've said before, I've said this publicly, I've said this on the podcast. If you're a Star Wars content creator, you know how big of a deal Reylo and Kylo Ren are in terms of your numbers. If you look at your back end, like that's it. Hello. And then also, let's talk about the publishing industry right now, which every romance novel started as a Reylo fan fiction.
Yep, it sure did.
You're scrolling TikTok, and guess what? You come upon a fan video, a Reylo fan video that somehow found its way into your FYP, and it has 2 million likes. And I'm not just talking one video. I'm talking like 50 videos.
Yeah, I feel like this is quite anecdotal, but I do feel recently I've noticed like a ton of people newly becoming fans of the Reylo ship on TikTok. Yep. I feel like I keep seeing videos of people being like, how was I not aware of this? When it was airing.
I think we're coming to an interesting point too. Like this is 2 days after the 10-year anniversary of The Force Awakens second trailer or full trailer that came out. I think we're just coming to an interesting time of like a 10-year reflection on the sequel trilogy and the good feelings around the sequel trilogy. And I think we've been through this already with how people start to feel really good about the prequels, right? Like I think we can look back on the cycles of how people think about certain eras of the fandom. And I think we're beginning a different era with the sequels. Yeah. And I think we always knew that this would happen, but I think we're experiencing it. And I think it's also helped by the fact that people are being introduced to Reylo or the character of Kylo Ren and Rey through books that are bestsellers. And people are talking about them. There's a movie coming out around Ali Hazelwood's Love Hypothesis, which started as a Reylo fan fiction. And there's a lot of deep lore there too. This year's been insane. Okay.
I mean,
should we talk about that for a second?
Yeah. So the Love Hypothesis was Ali Hazelwood's really, I think, the first Reylo fanfic that got published to immediate like #1 bestseller. The main character is named Adam. It's a modern AU. They're like scientists in school, studying. Like the Adam Driver, the Kylo Ren character
PhD
is
candidates.
PhD candidates, and he's been there for a while, and the Rey character is, you know, it's like her first year in the PhD program or something like that, and you know, Allie Hazelwood wrote this. It got published, huge success. She's published like a dozen books since then, and then there have been so many fanfic authors, Reylo fanfic authors since then that have gone on to, you know, publish traditionally in, you know, the traditional publishing space and have been really super successful. And the thing too is that the book cover for The Love Hypothesis, when that fan fiction was being written, you know, on AO3, Allie had an artist in the Reylo community who was doing like fan art for the fan fiction. And this is pretty common in fan fictions on AO3. And anyway, she brought that artist and had her do the cover of the book for The Love Hypothesis as well. And it's very clearly Ben Solo
Adam Driver
and Rey
Daisy Ridley,
on
fully.
the cover of The Love Hypothesis. And to what Charlotte was saying earlier of people are, you know, reading a lot of these, you know, books now that very clearly have elements of Star Wars and of Kylo Ren and Rey and Ben Solo in them, and are saying, wait, what are these dots that I need to be connecting?
Yeah,
And
I like this. How can I like this more?
Exactly. And The Love Hypothesis also was a big driver, LOL, of that, because people are looking at the cover and being like, how does anyone not know that this isn't Reylo fan fiction? It's Adam Driver and Daisy Ridley on the cover. And anyway, that's like, if you're unfamiliar with The Love Hypothesis, like where it comes from, that's where it comes from. The really deep, not even deep lore, but the
recent lore.
The crazy part is that it's now being made into a movie. Is being executive produced by Lily Reinhart of Riverdale fame, and she's done a lot of other stuff since then too. But
wait, there's a pause here. About a year ago, Daisy Ridley did an interview and was asked about the Love Hypothesis. Said she's read it and likes it.
And things that really took off in the Reylo community. Yes, thank you for adding that because I forgot about that. So anyway, it gets picked up as a movie. Lily Reinhart is kind of spearheading this. And who did they cast to play Dr. Adam Carlson?
It was this big question. Who was going to play Adam? Are they going to get Adam Driver? That would be so crazy.
That would be crazy. But no, they got the next best thing, which was Daisy Ridley's real life husband. When this broke on the internet, I was like, this is it. That nothing can top this. And then the actual Kylo Ren said, you know, like, hold my beer.
Hold my beer. I've actually been the biggest Reylo fan ever.
And I don't know.
You thought you were standing Ben Solo so much, like actually Ben Solo walking in, being like, actually, I've been self-publishing.
I can't believe that Daisy Ridley's husband being cast as the Ben Solo character in the Reylo fanfic movie, like that has been topped. You know what I mean? It's
in
just
2025
within a 4-month period. It's just it's
nuts.
And with The Love Hypothesis, while they were filming it, it was a pretty quick filming period. Actually, they're already done, and Lily Reinhart was going to town with the TikToks that were quite literally. I think the one that has the most has over 70 million views, at least as of like a couple weeks ago on TikTok. But just pulling insane.
The
numbers.
point is, you cannot, absolutely cannot ignore the success of this dynamic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's been repeated.
That's the takeaway.
Yes. So, of course, Lucasfilm knows this. There's no way they don't. They see the data. They also see the character of Ben Solo that died at the end of The Rise of Skywalker and think, man,
where'd that guy go?
If only, because now we're making more movies, if only we had that character again, because clearly so many people like this character. And we had Adam Driver, one of our great actors of our generation.
Mm-hmm.
Oops. Like, you know? And okay, so let's break down the article. I think this is obviously going to be a very chatty episode if we didn't say that already. But so number one, Adam says that he's always been interested and always was interested in doing another Star Wars. That's what he said directly. And he says, I've been talking about doing another one since 2021. Okay, 2021 is an interesting year. Okay. 2021. So let's teleport ourselves back to 2021. I do not want to, but let's do it. Yeah. Okay. 2021 was a rough year because I think we were still coming out of the pandemic. We were within the pandemic, and it seemed like movie theaters were really struggling. Would Star Wars ever be in movies again? Right? Would the success of all the television shows, we were going full steam ahead for Disney Plus television shows for Star Wars. And the question mark of will they make episode 9 or will they make episode 10, 11, 12? Will they make more Star Wars movies? Where will the next phase of Star Wars go? And I guess right now it's just television. So I think that's interesting that in 2021 this was being talked about. Right?
Yeah, and I think an important piece that people are just kind of overlooking in the online conversation is that Kathleen Kennedy reached out to Adam about
Yes.
revisiting this character. And then what I love is Adam's like, yeah, let me get back to you, and then comes back.
Yeah, he said, with a great director and a great story, I'll be there in a second. And he's like, actually,
You know what? I already have it written.
Yeah, 1 second. I'm gonna come up with a great story, and guess what? I got a great director, and man, does he have a great director? And I'll be there in a second. That's what he said. He said, I loved that character and loved playing him.
I think this kind of thing, if you are a newer fan to Star Wars or weren't really like around during the release of the sequel trilogy, I think it's important to know that Adam Driver was not always like front and center
Present.
of the press tours, and especially in The Rise of Skywalker, he was really pretty absent from a lot of the press tour, and it was super noticeable. And it was always really fascinating to watch it in real time, knowing and interpreting the films as really like Rey and Kylo's stories, right? And they're the dyad, right? But they were never, and they did joint press together, but it was never the overwhelming amount of press that was done. Like it was either, all of our characters by themselves, or like Daisy and Mark doing a lot, and then like Finn and Poe doing stuff together, and then like when they brought in Kelly Marie Tran and stuff like that. But even on like a lot of the big group interviews and stuff that they were doing around The Rise of Skywalker, where everyone was present, Adam Driver was not there. He didn't do a lot of interviews around The Rise of Skywalker, and he's not in the behind the scenes features like at all. It's very noticeable. Like if you watch the feature,
He's in the documentary for like probably a combined 2 minutes.
Yeah. And you can, it's fascinating to watch it because you can see when they do the like talking head interviews with the rest of the cast that they're like on set, or they're like they're somewhere on like a green screen or something like that. But it's pretty consistent. Like you can tell they're all kind of coming from production somewhere. And Adam Driver's talking head interview, which is the only time we have an interview with him in that documentary, he's in a very different place. Like visually, it's very different from the rest of the cast. It's super interesting, honestly. So to hear him talk about the character like this, it actually feels pretty special.
Yeah, to hear in this article a quote like this that I would assume Adam said, but it's not directly like in quotes quoted. Here's the line from the article. Driver had undertaken the trilogy with an arc in mind for Ren that inverted the journey of Darth Vader. As the trilogy evolved, it didn't play out that way. Driver felt like there was unfinished business for Kylo Ren, or as he was known before turning to the dark side, Ben Solo. Okay, this is not the first time, contrary to what I've seen online, this is not the first time that Adam has mentioned the inverted journey for Darth Vader equals Kylo Ren, and that's how we always thought about it. And sometimes when I think about the concept of what an inverted journey of Darth Vader is, I get a little confused. I don't know about you, but it frustrates me because this line says that didn't happen, but I think that you can say that it sort of did. What do you think about that? And how do you interpret that? The fact that he says that it didn't play out that way?
It does, but not in a satisfying place. And I think
there's no catharsis.
Level set back to 2019. Like, what was the analysis at that time? And why did some of the story beats in The Rise of Skywalker not fulfill the concept of the inverted Darth Vader when Kylo Ren was redeemed back to Ben Solo and he saved the one he loved from dying, right? Like that kind of checks the boxes in a lot of ways. But like you said, there's no catharsis there, because I think when we're looking at the Skywalker saga, 9 chapters that we have of it, the tragedy of Vader, right, is that even though he was redeemed, he never got to experience actual compassionate, romantic, and familial love like post redemption. Like he never got to have his own catharsis. So for Ben Solo, that would be furthering that story to the next level, to the catharsis, to the true happy ending of getting to live, having to figure out how to move forward with the sins of his past, but able to do it with someone like Rey who believes in him and, vice versa. He believes in her, understands the dark side that she has within her, everything around Rey Palpatine and all of that. But that is marked incomplete. So I think like he does, like I said, he does check the boxes, but
there's more to explore.
There's more to explore. And it's almost kind of like, it's kind of lazy of just, he did it. He saved Rey. Like Anakin can never say Padme, but
he
they
gave
both
his life.
Die in the end because they were bad people. And that's not mythic.
I think it could be mythic. I just don't think it was satisfying in the way that they hoped it would be. And I don't think there was enough time to explore it. Once Kylo Ren is back to Ben Solo, he has one line, and it is "ow." And he acted the acting as Ben Solo. He said so much with literally one single line.
Not even a line. It's just
it's not even a line. It's like literally just an onomatopoeia.
Yeah.
And there's so much more room. We introduce the concept of a dyad, and then it's a means to an end in order to bring Rey back to life, which I think is great. And I think that makes sense for his character. But there has always been so much more to explore here. So many more things that could be done. And, at the end of Rise of Skywalker, when he fades away, and then we're presented with 2 ghosts at the end of Rise of Skywalker, and neither of them are Ben Solo. So the question mark of where is he is so real. And we've had this question since 2019. It has inflicted a lot of trauma for us. And it's so wild that we're almost 5 years, 6 years later, 5 years later. I don't even know. 6 years later. Oh my God. And we're still talking about this, but I think that there really is so much more to the story.
Yeah.
People have been writing the Fix It Fic for years.
Yeah. I think I want to go back to kind of how The Rise of Skywalker ended and a little bit of like why it's important for a character like Ben Solo to come back and the things that feel unresolved from the end of the last movie, right? I think a big one, actually, they're all kind of big reasons for me, and I know for you too. But I think kind of going back to that inverted Darth Vader and like how it checks boxes, but it's not satisfying. I think for all of our legacy characters, it feels like everything ends in failure. Like Leia and Han never get to see their child again or see him as Ben Solo. He immediately dies afterwards. Han and Leia get divorced, and that really sucked to find that out in the films. Ben Solo never reconciled with Luke Skywalker after everything that they went through and their relationship together. Luke Skywalker also died. Ben Solo died. It doesn't feel good. And obviously we all know there were a lot of extenuating circumstances with Carrie Fisher, of course, but it compounded in a way that all of our legacy characters died one by one in each of the films. And then Ben Solo himself died at the end too. And we have a lot of feelings about Rey Skywalker. I don't think this is the conversation for it, but that never felt like a good conclusion for the Skywalker name for us either. For some people it does. And, that it is what it is. But I don't know. That just feels so sad to think about, like Han and Leia divorced. They lost their son. They never really got to see him redeemed again. Luke Skywalker and, his nephew who, he was part of him turning to the dark side. They never fully reconciled. And then he's just gone. And there's no resolution for any of those characters. I think also for Rey's storyline, it's very unresolved too. We talked a ton before The Rise of Skywalker came out about the theme of concealment. And that it would have been what we thought should happen with her character was that she needed to tell other people what had happened with Kylo Ren in The Last Jedi. She was keeping all of that to herself, all of everything she found out about herself, about her parents, about, her abilities, and then everything that happened with Kylo Ren, all of that was kept hidden. No one really knew what she was going through. And I think you see some of that tension between her and Finn in The Rise of Skywalker. Like, she's clearly keeping things to herself. But that also never gets resolved. And even
No.
from Finn's side, too, like the whole movie, he's trying to tell her something and he never tells her. Like, we still don't know what he was trying to tell her.
And also, there's a big weight in the film, I think, also when Rey tells Finn about the dream that she has about her and Kylo on the throne together. And it almost felt like a door into opening that conversation, and then it never goes anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this like glimmer of what could have been.
Yeah.
And so then the movie ends without anyone knowing of this dyad relationship that Rey had with Kylo Ren, this man who saved her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's sad.
It is sad. And the way that the dyad is explained as like two halves of a whole, and even in the novelization, it's described as like her other half, her soulmate. And he dies. And so that other half is gone. And the movie doesn't really give Rey any time to grieve that. And you and I have always had a lot of issue with the ending shot of The Rise of Skywalker with Rey by herself on Tatooine, and how that just really emphasizes how that she's alone again, which is how she started her character arc in The Force Awakens. And to us, that didn't seem poetic in a character growth way. That seemed sad for her to have found her partner in the Force and then to have lost him and still ended up alone. And that also feels really unresolved. And like what you were saying, she never told anyone what happened with Kylo, with Ben Solo, anything like that. She doesn't even get to cry for him or anything. That feels really unresolved. And then like our understanding of the Force, this was really a huge part of our speculation, is that the balance of the Force, that means you have the dark side in you as well. It doesn't mean you eradicate it, because that's not reality. And that's part of the whole challenge, I think, with the Jedi, as Luke kind of understood it, and part of, what he was fighting against in The Last Jedi. He saw a lot of hypocrisy in the Jedi. And I think there's truth to that. And then, he kind of took it to a different extreme as well. But I think we always thought that the story would end with, maybe it's too much for one person to kind of have the balance of the Jedi to be the representation of that, or of the Force, I should say. And so the idea that it could actually be shared between, like these two opposites, a man and a woman, someone from the dark side, someone from the light side, but they actually like find common ground and they realize how they can balance each other and kind of be this example in a lot of ways of balancing the Force. That always seemed really attractive to us in kind of the next step in how we understand and talk about the Force as a larger entity, being, spirit, whatever you want to call it. And that whole possibility seemed to be taken away once you take Ben Solo, the other half of the dyad, out of the picture. So I think that those feel like such big pillars of what happens throughout the sequel trilogy that it does make a lot of sense to revisit them and to bring Ben Solo back in order to talk about what the next step is in understanding them. And I think it would also, sorry, I've been monologuing for a minute, but it will also be really great for the Rey Palpatine storyline as well.
Yes.
And that has always been also a big wound from The Rise of Skywalker, is the Rey Palpatine of it all. And there's a good story there.
There is a good story there.
Yeah.
There's something there. We just did not have time with it.
Yeah. And again, that's something else Rey never talks about in the film. She never actually says Rey Palpatine. And furthermore, Kylo was the only person that knew she was Rey Palpatine. So theoretically, she never even shared that with Finn and Poe and anything else before she just decided to bury the truth of her family and take on the Skywalker name, which has its own really dark legacy attached to it, So it's like, what are we what are we doing
muddled.
here?
It's muddled.
It's muddled.
It's a muddled message at the end.
Yeah, and to bring Ben Solo back allows for time to unearth all of everything that has continued to be concealed for a lot of these characters and find a different continuation and resolution to some of those storylines. We're so excited that today's episode is brought to you with support from Nello. Nello makes a variety of dietary drink supplements, their most well-known being the calm-inducing Super Calm. I've been using Nello for about 6 months now and have experienced a noticeable difference in my quality of sleep when using Nello regularly.
If you've been a listener of Skytalkers for a while, you know that I have spoken frequently about how my sleep quality has never been great. I've struggled with getting to bed at a reasonable hour and falling and staying asleep. For me, Nello Supercalm has made it easier to relax at the end of the day and prepare my mind and body for sleep.
You know, it really does hit on the two things that we each don't get enough of. I never drink enough water and you never get enough sleep. So I get the raspberry lemonade flavor and you mix it into water every night. That's how you take it. So it's like an extra dose of hydration for me.
Yeah, I take it every night to fall asleep. It has made a world of difference. It's made for us. If you want to try Nello Supercalm and see what it can do for you, head to drinknello.com and use the code SkyTalkers10 for 10% off your order. The fact that it was called The Hunt for Ben Solo too adds another layer to this, where I think for so many people we were speculating, Dave Filoni introduced the concept of the world between worlds, which I think it's funny because we were supposed to be talking about Mortis this week.
Right.
Mortis is sort of the precursor to talking about the world between worlds. It's kind of one and the same in this weird way. This weird Force stuff things that we talk about on the podcast and just in Star Wars canon. And the point of that is just bringing up the fact that there's so many ways to bring a character like this back.
Right.
There are endless possibilities if you use your imagination. We have characters who were quite literally cut in half that were brought back in a way that made their character even better than before in like the biggest way possible. And I'm talking about Darth Maul. Darth Maul was brought back and his story became Sisyphusian. It became mythic. It became more than just a caricature of a villain that we saw in The Phantom Menace. And I really don't mean that in a negative way, but I mean Maul got elevated to a status that when we have time to explore, it becomes my number one television show for excitement that we're going to get next year, right?
Yeah.
Like it's nuts.
And even Boba Fett.
Boba Fett.
At the bottom of the Sarlacc pit for how many years? And they were like, you know what? Bring him out.
And it's not even that. It's like that was brought back because fans wanted that. And I don't think we should pretend that there was any other reason.
Mm-hmm.
Fans talked about that enough for 30 years that became reality. Exactly what happens to Boba Fett to crawl out of the Sarlacc pit, I think is, I could be wrong about this, a quotation from, is it Parks and Rec or 30 Rock? Can't remember.
That sounds familiar.
The exact thing. So it is, I don't, just because there's like fan excitement doesn't mean that it's not worth it, In fact, I think it's the complete opposite. There's fan excitement here. People want this. So let's go for it. But to bring in,
I think to be fair, that's also a balance of.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
It is a balance. And I'm very aware of that. But I think that the title of The Hunt for Ben Solo, it's like, what does that even mean? That's what a crazy title. I don't think any of us could have. I mean, maybe we could have, but
I like how direct Adam is in this title. It's like, no, this is what we're doing. Mm-hmm. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. This is about Ben Solo, my fave.
Yeah, it's not even like the Kylo Ren Returns as a working title. It was Ben Solo, The Hunt for Ben Solo.
And as Twitter has said, who is doing the hunting?
It has to be Rey.
It's Rey. It has to be Rey, right?
Yeah. It has to be Rey. Okay, so I think, Caitlin, you just summarized so many of our conversations that we had for our almost 8-year run as a Star Wars podcast around Reylo, around Ben-demption or Run-demption, all these pieces that we spent hours and hours and hours and hours talking through. I think we should probably go back to the timeline as well around the fact that apparently, okay, so Adam says that this was a 2021 pitch, that Kathleen Kennedy reached out to Adam, said, would you be interested in playing Ben Solo again? He said yes. And so since 2021, this conversation was a go-in. And Adam had talked to Steven Soderbergh about doing a project together. They courted writers who had worked with Soderbergh on many, many, many projects. So we had Scott Z. Burns, who is like a frequent collaborator with Soderbergh, worked on Contagion, and then also is uncredited for doing some light work on the Rogue One edits
with
and
Tony
reshoots.
Gilroy.
With Tony Gilroy. Like, hello.
Okay.
So just a compatriot of Tony Gilroy, I feel like that was like salt in the wound, if I'm being honest. When I read that, I was like, oh my God. And then just a note in the article, it says Rebecca Blunt outlined a story. When you look up Rebecca Blunt is a pseudonym for Soderbergh's wife, who does a lot of work on his projects too. So we had a lot of greats on the table. We were ready to go. And then someone tweeted, I don't know if this is real or not. I can't figure this out. Someone tweeted that they worked on concept art for the show, a graphic design treatment for it. It feels real.
It feels, I mean, that feels very in line with general Star Wars production of
And like how to pitch.
And then you're also going to pitch it with artwork, with concept art.
Yeah, and he said it was going to be awesome. And so
that's not confirmed, but it's out there and went a little viral.
Yeah. And Soderbergh saying in a statement, I really enjoyed making the movie in my head. I'm just sorry the fans won't get to see it. Like
us too.
I really don't think the door is closed. I think even talking about it is a really big deal, but I think the imagination has been activated for this. I feel a lot of things, and I know you do too. I feel really vindicated that people are still talking about Kylo Ren as a character, and that people like Adam Driver, who played this character, care so much about it that he's been working on this for years.
It's kind of funny. I kind of feel like I did after The Rise of Skywalker of I got what I wanted, but at what cost? And like really high highs, really low lows.
Right.
Yeah.
I am really, really grateful that it comes out and it's very clearly outlined in this that Lucasfilm wanted this and that it was Disney that said no.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
I think that it shows the Lucasfilm crew, who I think we know really values story and, you know, the brand in a big way. It shows them in such a good light. The fact that they pitched it to Carrie Beck, they pitched it to Dave Filoni, Kathleen Kennedy, they all loved it. And it was Bob Iger who said no. Bob Iger, when I catch you, I feel like this is such a huge fumble. I cannot believe it. I've also been trying to put myself in what it would have felt like if this was announced actually and was gonna get made.
Oh, I have not even put myself
Went there
in that imagination headspace because that's a step too far.
Yeah. And it makes me sad. But and then I'm sort of wondering if it was ever to be brought back in a different way, would it make me more excited? I don't know what would make me more excited. I think that I don't want this to be the end. So
I don't either. I think I'd be so worried if it were to come back that it would be so different from what Adam and Steven had initially pitched, like that Bob Iger would change it. You know what I mean? Because he had a lot of say in what ended up happening in The Rise of Skywalker. And
sure did.
That is just not my favorite Star Wars. So
in fact, that was his whole contingent on coming back. He in the years that Bob Chapek took over from the Walt Disney Company, Bob Iger wanted to do more of the producing aspect of and like meddling, to be honest,
Yeah.
in movies. That's like a really rude term, but that is from all different franchises that Disney owns. That is sort of what keeps coming up about Bob Iger. So him coming back, I think, I don't know. I can't handle this.
Yeah. I think, again, other context, if you were not around in the Star Wars world during the sequel trilogy, is that, The Last Jedi came out. It was the last, right? It was the last on-screen credit for Carrie Fisher. And
I mean, in Star Wars.
in Star Wars, I can't remember if
She had one more movie.
that
It was
came out
absolutely
afterwards.
fabulous.
Yes. I was like, I knew there was something else that came out afterwards, but that was episode 9. They wanted to delay to kind of rewrite, figure out and I'm condensing a lot of this, okay? But they wanted to push back episode 9 to kind of refigure out what to do with the Leia character, understandably, right? And at one point, Rian Johnson had been asked if he would consider doing episode 9, and he said he would need more time than the already, because at the time it was scheduled for 2019 when it came out. And it was
At the time it was scheduled for May 2019.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. And Bob Iger is the one who said no to all of that, to kind of delaying the movie. And that pushed a lot of writers and directors away in coming on to episode 9, including Rian Johnson. And that's when JJ was brought in and, the ball rolled in that direction. But I think I always wonder what that movie would have looked like if it had, even with J.J. Abrams still on it, if it had been given another year to kind of, really finesse itself and workshop more of what it wanted to do with the many storylines that film has going on in it. And that comes back to Bob Iger as well. So.
True.
Anyway.
Just back to the timeline. So 2021 pitch. I want to remind people of another thing that was brewing in this time period of 2021 to basically now. There's so much conversation that goes on around what is the future of the films in Star Wars, right? Right now, we have the Mandalorian and Grogu that's coming out in May of next year. And then in the next year, we have Starfighter starring Ryan Gosling. That is filming, that is happening. That is Sean Levy's movie. And then Mandalorian and Grogu is Jon Favreau's movie that is an extension of the television show that launched Disney Plus, right? I understand, and we've been on the record of talking about why they would greenlight that. It just makes total sense to me. Grogu is a absolute moneymaker. Kylo Ren is also a moneymaker, just saying. But I do think that it just makes sense to me. They're already producing it, so I understand. Let's put it in the movie theaters. However, there was all this conversation going on around, okay, what happens to the character of Rey, who was our title character for the sequel trilogy? We don't want to make the same mistake that we made with the original trilogy in that we don't make the sequels right away and our actors get older and then we have to do a different type of story, which is mentor to mentee. We don't want to wait for our actors to get older in that aspect, right? We want to continue to make money off of the character of Rey. I totally get that. You get that too. So what happens in what is reported in the Hollywood Reporter in August of 2022 is that Damon Lindelof, who is a director showrunner of The Leftovers and Lost, is brought in to talk about the next phase of Star Wars. And there's a roundtable conversation that happens about the future of the Star Wars brand that happens after Celebration Anaheim in 2022. Dave Filoni is present. A lot of story group people are present. Damon Lindelof is there, along with other notable names that are not dropped in the article. And what I can understand, what I can take away from this is that there was a lot of blue sky ideas that were put on like a whiteboard around what is the story, what do we do next? And I remember reading this and being like, this makes total sense. And I'm happy that they're doing this, that they're having this like summit where they talk about all these hopefully mythic ideas about where to take these characters that we know and love now and what the next step would be. And like, what would be the next phase of Star Wars movie making. And again, I had mentioned this earlier, but I do think that this was at a time where it was like, what is the future of movies?
Yeah.
What is the future of movie theaters? What is the future of how we consume media? I still think we're in that conversation, but less so. I think that people do recognize still, like especially these big studios, that there's millions of dollars to be made at the box office still, and that the art of movie making is not going to go away, but just evolve. So I think that this conversation was, I don't know, do you remember reading this and being like, interesting, okay. And it was also after this, it could be before or after, that it was announced that Dave Filoni was now the chief creative officer of Lucasfilm. So I remember reading that and being like, interesting that Dave Filoni is there. That actually means that it's probably a really big deal. It's not just a meeting with Kathleen Kennedy. It was really a blue sky roundtable, I would assume. Also, an interesting note, as this was being talked about, so this article about the roundtable that happened after Celebration Anaheim was in May of 2022. This article launched that talked about the roundtable and the blue sky conversation with Damon that he was included at. That happened in August of 2022. That the article was referenced. And then in November of 2022, we see, this is anecdotal, we see Damon Lindelof at the Willow premiere in California, at this like small premiere of
Just makes you think.
Yeah, it did make me think. And I remember he slipped in at the end and he slipped out at the other, at like when it was all over. And then Damon gets dropped after that, like shortly after that we see him at the Willow premiere, gets dropped from any sort of future conversations about Star Wars movies, Star Wars trilogies. There was a lot of things that were being thrown around at that time period in fall of 2022. So that's 2022. 2021, Adam Driver is approached by Kathleen Kennedy. And then months later at Celebration Europe, we get an announcement of a Rey movie.
And a bunch of other movies.
In
April 2023.
All of which have not been made yet.
Yeah.
But now, all of which would have not been made yet. Dave Filoni's movie, the Rey movie, and a Old Republic movie. And that has not happened. Apparently they're all still on the slate. And
it's like production hasn't even really moved forward in a more public way on those.
In fact, I would say that the Rey movie has changed writers often. I think it's happened 3 times so far. It's been pushed along. Daisy has commented on it several times, saying she's ready whenever. I think she's seen some scripts, but I do think she's bound by an NDA. And it just, all of this being released makes me wonder, was all of that being kicked around with the Rey movie because they were presented with a story from Soderbergh and Adam Driver, and how all of that interacts? Because now they're going forward with what we have filmed and is being filmed is a movie that takes place 5 years after The Rise of Skywalker, with Starfighter with Ryan Gosling. That is being filmed. That is going to come out, right? And then we have The Mandalorian, which I think some people are seeing as safe. So neither of those are interacting with Rey or Kylo Ren or Finn or Poe, right? It doesn't seem like it. I wouldn't be surprised if there was some crossover, especially with Starfighter. But this is not the promised Rey movie. And so then that being pushed back and back and back and back and back makes me wonder if they were making room for this concept that ultimately got nixed by Bob Iger. There's another piece that's interesting that internet sleuths have found out is that Soderbergh has a very public Letterboxd account, and he was watching Star Wars movies, notably not The Rise of Skywalker, until
every other movie but.
Yeah, until January 2024.
December 2024.
December 2024. Thank you for that. December 2024. So that's recent.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. I think that the idea that we're at Celebration London and they're announcing this Rey movie in 2023 when, I would assume at that juncture that Lucasfilm has seen a pretty in-depth treatment from Adam and Steven and is like, yeah, let's keep going on this. I don't know if I don't really know how the nitty-gritty of the timeline works, right? But it's just wild to me that they're announcing this Rey movie with Daisy Ridley there. Meanwhile, Adam Driver is backstage and figuratively talking about the hunt for Ben Solo. And I'm kind of like, again, who's doing the hunting here if not Rey? And were these storylines ever crossed? Like, did these two ships of the biggest Star Wars ship, Reylo, cross in the night? Did they meet in story group? I have to imagine they did. It's so crazy to me to think that, well, and Lucasfilm was obviously very pro whatever the Rey story was, and then very pro the Ben Solo story, right? And that Bob Iger, Disney, Alan Bergman are like, you know what? I think we only need the Rey one at this time. It's just, I don't know. I'm not making a lot of sense here, but it's just crazy thinking about this timeline and everything that was publicly out there. And then Adam Driver is behind the scenes with Steven Soderbergh working on the hunt for Ben Solo, and up until presumably December 2024. That's less than a year ago. And the thing that I am clinging on to right now is that the delays in the Rey movie, that it all is being changed to make this a Reylo movie, that it is some version of the hunt for Ben Solo. And it will be Rey's movie, but she's looking for her other half. Like, I'm sure she's doing other stuff too, but I would hope a big motivator for her is the hope that she can find Ben Solo again.
I know that there's been a lot of conversation about Simon Kinberg also creating a Star Wars trilogy, allegedly, right? I don't even think it's alleged. I think that's happening. Yeah. And there was conversation around who is even starring in that. Is it a new story? And no one knows, right? But I think the rumors were that maybe the Rey movie is now becoming a trilogy. I think all of these things are related, personally.
I think they have to be. Can I read the order that Steven Soderbergh is watching?
Yes,
Star
please.
Wars.
The Soderbergh cut, machete cut,
Yeah,
but it's Soderbergh version.
Yeah, I tweeted. I was like, should we watch this order? Should we marathon this order?
I'm down.
It's really a wild order. This is just from 2024. Okay, his letterbox goes back further, like when in 2016 with The Force Awakens. But I'm not going to read that part. I'm just going to read in 2024. Okay. So in a 3-day period in February of 2024, he watches in this order: The Phantom Menace, Return of the Jedi, Attack of the Clones. Crazy order, okay? In September of 2024, he watches Empire Strikes Back. And then weekly in December of 2024, he goes A New Hope, Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, Making of the Empire Strikes Back. The same day, he logs Revenge of the Sith and the Making of the Empire Strikes Back.
I love that duology.
Me too. And then he ends the year watching A New Hope.
I've been there. I know how to end the year watching A New Hope.
I know.
So have you.
Yeah, correct.
The thing that's so funny is if I can read too far into the watching Revenge of the Sith and watching Empire Strikes Back making of, is Adam saying, just like peeling it back to his love for Empire Strikes Back, which he thinks, quote, like did it best or something, right? That aligns.
Yeah. I think it's really fascinating that this whole year of watching does not include The Force Awakens or The Last Jedi or The Rise of Skywalker. And
it's one of those things that I'm sort of like, is it too close? And that's why if they were,
I think so.
Yeah.
And if he's trying to get back to like the original saga as George Lucas imagined it, I don't know. There's a lot there, but I think the order is just like Phantom Menace to Return of the Jedi, back to Attack of the Clones in a 3-day period. Like that's February 16th, 18th, and 19th of 2024.
Phantom Menace to Return of the Jedi is crazy.
That is like
it's crazy.
I gotta do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then from Return of the Jedi to Attack of the Clones, it's really kooky bananas.
Yeah. But it's maybe genius.
I know. Like, what did he see? What did he see that now I need to see? He saw the path to how to hunt for Ben Solo.
He
really did. he saw the he watched the beginning and end of Anakin Skywalker's journey.
Yes.
Right? Like,
yeah. And so to understand the reverse, it's like, okay, I got to do that.
Yeah. And then a pretty big emphasis on Attack of the Clones. I think he watches The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones twice. And then, let me see. The Phantom Menace twice, Attack of the Clones twice, A New Hope twice. I don't know. Just noting.
And he's logging them. So who knows? The logging, I feel like even if you're writing, maybe you would just watch a scene or something. No, he's watching the whole thing.
And that, I remember Rian Johnson talking about how he kind of had the prequels like on a loop.
He fell asleep watching the prequels every night.
Yeah, for a while preparing for The Last Jedi. So it's just wild to me to think about the Rey movie being announced while a Ben Solo movie is in the works behind the scenes. You know, that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
And I mean, like we talked about the data of Kylo Ren, of Ben Solo, of Reylo. I know Bob Iger has those numbers. I know he gets information.
It's like,
on
take
this.
me into the pitch room.
What,
Adam,
going
Steven,
on?
did you both mention the numbers?
Data?
Is the data there? Because if not, we need a do-over.
I think the next step for Adam Driver is he's got to go to a convention and sign autographs so that Bob Iger can see what happens of pure pandemonium. Adam Driver is going to be making like $2 million.
He would never do that.
I know, but I don't know. I would have never thought Adam Driver would do this. And yet, you know, if he wants to take it a step, he's going to be like, you know what? I'm going to walk onto the convention floor and face you myself at D23, Bob Iger. I'm going to be in the crowd. You know,
like anybody
have a question? I have more of a question than a comment, Bob. More of a comment than a question, Bob Iger. Why did you nix The Hunt for Ben Solo with me, starring me, Adam Driver, as Ben Solo?
How are you feeling? What do you think? Because I have a taste in my mouth that is optimistic and hopeful because now this is out there and I've seen the magic that talking about something to death can work within the Star Wars brand.
Right.
Lord, I have seen what you have done for others. Give me this, you know.
I've seen what you've done for freaking Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah. No, but seriously. So like if Adam is going the Deadpool route, let's go. You know, let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I'm here for it.
But even like talking about Boba Fett for as much as people did for years. That is sort of what I was referring to.
I don't want to wait that long.
I don't. Well, that's the whole thing. We can't wait for this long.
Adam, I'm not being ageist, but he's well into his 40s.
Don't say that.
You know what I mean? Like he was not in his 40s when he started the character of Ben Solo and Kylo Ren. And yeah, you know, there is a clock on these things. And yeah. I think overall, though, I keep going through every emotion, honestly. Last night, I literally sat on my phone on Twitter for a solid 4 hours. Charlotte and I were talking about this before we hit record. I was like, I haven't spent time like this on Twitter, and I don't know how long. My body's not trained for it anymore. But I was listening. I put on our Force Bonded playlist that we have on Spotify from 2018, 2019, our like very angsty Reylo playlist, and I had it, you know, blasting on the Alexa, and I was like, I feel it. I feel hope again that
what is this?
This feeling? The song Dynasty could come back into my life in a big way. And Going Down in Flames by Ella someone, like these pillars of Reylo edits years and years ago, that it could mean something now. And then I woke up this morning kind of with a hangover of like a Twitter Star Wars
like hangover. A delusion hangover.
Yeah, and felt really low. I will say I do keep fixating on, you know, Adam saying, but it's done now, so I can talk about it, which I know could all be part of the ploy, the plot, the grand plan, but I do fixate on it.
I think it's politics. It's politics, man.
I think so too, and Oh my God. You know what's so funny, to interrupt? My friend that I was with, who at the Barnes& and Noble buying the Allie Hazelwood book, she just texted me and said she already finished it.
Oh my God.
And that's that on Raylo.
Yes, that's the Raylo effect.
She just texted me. Felt worth
That
it
is
to interrupt the
so
podcast.
funny. 24 hours later, almost exactly.
That's, yeah, quite literally 20. Wow. That's so funny.
Nuts.
But I think I'm feeling every emotion. I think writing out these notes and like talking about it all, it makes me really excited that it's out there. And if you've been on Robert Iger's Instagram, the people have been telling him what they want. And I hope they listen. I hope he listens. I just think so many people have always said this, and we have always said this. Ben Solo, Kylo Ren, is one of the best characters to come out of the Disney acquisition. It is a shame not to utilize him with Adam Driver more, and the fact that he was spearheading this is just, what more could you ask for? So I can only hope that this news came out because they decided to keep using him, but in a different way that they can't talk about right now. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's the Rey movie being reformulated to work in Adam Driver now, which
the loss of Soderbergh though is actually really rough though.
Yeah.
If true. But
Yeah,
I do like don't want to lose sight of the prize, which is Adam Driver.
Right. I just hope that, and I think that if Adam, I think Adam would be, when Ben Solo comes back, I imagine that Adam will ensure that he has more of a say in what's happening to that character, because I think if you just look at his presence on the Tross press tour, it kind of says a lot. You know what I mean? And I don't think he wants to be in that position again.
He probably wants a producer credit.
Probably.
Maybe
really
it came down to
too.
stuff like that. I don't know. It's frustrating though. But, I mean, I think that, the reason why I will go back to the fact that I think this is a very well-crafted PR statement is that it covers every box. It creates an enemy in Bob Iger. It creates an ally in Lucasfilm, in Kathleen Kennedy. It also shows that they were trying to keep the movie to a certain cost, which is the only thing people really care about in Hollywood these days, is how to do something effectively. And also, this is on the heels, by the way, of Forbes reporting the profits of the Star Wars movies under Disney. And the profits for The Rise of Skywalker were extremely low compared to the other films. It's Solo and The Rise of Skywalker that are really, like, Solo's in the negative, and Rise of Skywalker, I think, made $45 million. That's just off the top of my head. I don't have the numbers in front of me. While The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi made like $500 million, and I think $340 million. So it's a huge difference. And this is another reason why I'm sure that was a part of the conversation in 2021 with this pitch, is we're relatively close to The Rise of Skywalker coming out. And it was like, why would we touch that?
While this is still in development, they're greenlighting other movies.
Well, they're not greenlighting anything in 2021.
Not in 2021, but in 2023, they're greenlighting multiple movies when this is still presumably in development.
Mm-hmm. It's so confusing.
It's really confusing.
The concept of development is one that I think I don't want to get too tripped up in thinking that this was going to happen, right? For all intents and purposes, it kind of sounds like it was going to. But when people say in development, Kathleen herself has said this in the article or the interview that she gave earlier this year, if you remember, around, it was like super candid, where she was like,
it was about
we have so many things
retiring.
Yes. And she said, we have so many things in development, and a very few of those will be made. And that's how you wheel and deal. That's like what being a producer is. I think it's hard as fans because we get so attached to these characters and we get so attached to these concepts, and they're so fun and everything sounds good. when it's in this development phase and it leaks. But I do think it's normal to have these conversations.
Yeah,
What
totally.
the difference here is that this is a long period, it feels like, of this being quote unquote in development. It's not just a conversation. If they were doing a graphic treatment, this is something else. There's a script made.
It just feels like it went through every level that it needed to go through. Like, it feel like, I think as soon as you get Kathleen Kennedy, Carrie Beck, and Dave Filoni, like internally at Lucasfilm, they're like, yeah, this is something that is worth pursuing. Let's go get the check signed from Bob Iger. And it has to go through him. And like the buck stops there, quite literally. So to me, I don't feel like they bring those things that are at lower levels of development. Like, if it's not, like, if Lucasfilm doesn't feel ready to present it, it's either going to get squashed or, morph into something else. It's not going to go all the way up to Bob Iger for something that's just like an initial pitch, At least I don't think.
No. But I don't want it to be twisted in that thinking that I am delusional and to be excited by something like this, but I am also, like, to be very clear, if nothing is done with the Ben Solo character in the next 10 years on screen, I'm going to be very, very disappointed and continue to be very disappointed. This feels hopeful to me because this is like the first time we've officially heard about this ever, or any sort of mention of bringing Kylo Ren back as a character, since The Rise of Skywalker, which is a very open wound for you and I. So I think that being excited about that is just only natural.
Yeah.
I worry because I have been hurt before around that. And it's sad that he said that Soderbergh is saying, I'm just sad that fans won't see it. Again, it feels very politicky to me. But I also have to acknowledge that they're saying that they're sad that it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Maybe there was no NDA because it didn't happen. It's not going to happen. But to me, it feels like they're testing the waters, and I have to cling to that hope, because what is Star Wars without hope?
I don't know.
End scene. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. It is so funny, though, to look at Bob Iger's Instagram comments around the Disney doing the 250th anniversary of America announcement, and all the comments are about Ben Solo.
It's like, almost, this man does not have a very popular Instagram, all things considered. And I think his last post had like 30 comments on it, and before that it was like 12, and then the way I have to believe that he didn't know that this news was dropping, because he posted on Instagram like an hour after this Adam Driver thing.
We need to be so real. Bob Iger is not posting on his Instagram.
I mean, that's trure, but
okay, everyone who's listening needs to know he has a manager and assistant who's doing this for him.
Whoever is in charge of that did not like
this. All these comments will have to be reported and shared with him.
The timing of this Instagram post, like an hour after this article drops, is just too. I mean, maybe that's all part of the grand scheme as well, because now I think that post is up to almost 1,000 comments, all about Ben Solo.
And also, just an anecdote, it's no one that I know likes this post except for Natalie Portman.
And she absolutely liked it after there were lots of Ben Solo comments on it, because I saw that.
I don't think she knows anything about that, but
I don't think so either. It's funny.
It's just funny. It's just simply funny. And also, another note is, you're so right. Like, the timing is off, because Disney announced the 250th anniversary of America program earlier in the day. It's like the manager who runs the social media account was late to post this, because this was out here earlier in the day with like plans and conversations, and the fact that Disney's going to be open, I think, for 24 hours up until July 4th. So all that came out in the morning. So Bob Iger was late to post. Bob and the team. And so if they posted earlier, I still think the comments would be completely flooded, but it is really funny.
It's like, I remember, again, was on Twitter for, a solid 4 hours, and you refresh the feed and someone goes, Bob Iger just posted on Instagram. Like, do you know what to do? I was like, oh my God. I think if we're keeping our tinfoil hat, our conspiracy theory hat on, we also have to talk about Daisy Ridley's Instagram story.
I know
today.
We actually do.
I gotta pull up. I have to actually pull it up. So hold on one second. You sent it to me on Twitter.
It's still up.
Okay, so Daisy Ridley on her Instagram story posts the cover of a book called One of Us with the okay emoji, the hand, the A-OK hand emoji 3 times. And again, the book is called One of Us, and one of the main characters, or the protagonist of the book, apparently is named Ben in that book. And also, if you don't,
let's just remind the Raylo history
Yep,
that we brought to the beginning of this episode, which is her husband is in a Raylo fanfic movie.
Exactly. And further back, Daisy Ridley used to like Raylo fan art on Instagram all the time, and she would leave comments about it sometime too. And people ended up really bullying her about it, and it's a big part of why she ended up leaving Instagram throughout a lot of the sequel trilogy. But she was a huge supporter of Raylo fan artists initially, and has read things like The Love Hypothesis, and then within 15 hours of this The Hunt for Ben Solo news coming out, she posts something called One of Us.
Yeah.
The character named
another
Ben.
addition to the that's crazy. Another addition to the tinfoil hat is that Adam Driver came over to Daisy Ridley in her parents' house in the last year to have dinner.
I mean, what am I supposed to do if not read into that? You know what I mean?
I know. I know.
I try to be level-headed.
I try to be normal.
I try to be normal. Yeah. And
there's no way to be normal about any of this. When this came out,
Ryan Johnson tweeted yesterday too, and I was like, Ryan, like in the middle,
Ryan,
I was like,
do
Ryan,
not enter this.
You can't. I was like, does he have something to say about The Hunt for Ben Solo? And no, it was about the Frankenstein movie, which is fair. But I was like, what are you doing here right now, Ryan?
I know.
If not helping us.
I know. And then it also came out today that his next movie is a 70s inspired sci-fi thriller. And I was like, okay, Ryan, come back to us.
Is the simulation glitching or what?
Also, did Bob Iger cancel the Ryan Johnson trilogy? Is that where we're at?
I can't even. We don't have the emotional wherewithal to.
We're simply speculating. Okay, I just need to say that we're simply speculating. But I don't know. This is so this piece of news is so big. I fear it's going to take me at least 14 business days to recover.
Yeah. Yep. I agree.
And I think I'm going to change my opinion every hour. Right now, I'm in optimism mode.
Yeah,
a couple of tweets in a few hours will put me into depression mode of this is never going to happen. It's so over. But like the it's so over, we're so back. It's so over, we're so back. Like
graph, yeah,
that really is it.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm about to fully crash. I can feel it. Literally and figuratively, emotionally, and actually, because again, it was Adam Driver. I posted a tweet and it said, me and Adam Driver in a post-Strauss 2021 COVID lockdown depression, manic about here's how Ben Solo could return. And I just like,
he's writing it in his head. Like, I can't.
He was there with us the whole time.
And he's the footprints in the sand.
Yes. He's just, I can't believe it. I always knew that he loved this character, but again, it's just, I'm just really, I'm like rewriting the past 5 years of while I was spiraling, he was boots on the ground. He was at Skywalker Ranch. He was having.
Caitlin, it's so crazy. Okay, let's just, this time last year, we were being weird outside of his play, hoping that he would walk out and we get a glimpse of him. And then he didn't walk out, but we saw him in the car go around the corner. Maybe he was checking his phone to
Let's see, that
talk
would've
to
been-
Steven
that
Soderbergh
would've
about
been
this next phase.
October of 2024, which means
Cross-reference it with the movies that Steven's watching.
So on September 20th, 2024, Empire Strikes Back is logged by Steven Soderbergh. In late October 2024, me and Charlotte stand outside the theater.
Do you guys see the correlation?
I won't tell you how long we stood outside the theater waiting to see if Adam Driver would do autographs. It was too long. Anyway, and then a couple months later, he logs A New Hope on December 2nd, 2024. So
He had an email in his inbox from Steven Soderbergh
he definitely
or a
did.
text on his flip phone.
I just watched this and here's what I think about it. And Adam was like, that's so great. I just left this play. These two girls on the sidewalk just did like a full 180. One of them might have fallen down. Here's what I have to say about Ben Solo today.
I'm also thinking about how Adam visited Skywalker Ranch shortly after The Rise of Skywalker came out. I don't think that fully aligns with the 2021 timeline that is presented here about Kathy calling Adam up.
I wonder if they had to come to Jesus. Like the crazy side of me is like they had to come to Jesus and it was like, look, we're really sorry. I don't know.
I don't think they would ever do that.
I think it would be so either, but I don't know. It's weird timing.
It's all weird timing. I feel like because I need to say this. Like I want Lucasfilm, and I think Lucasfilm wants us too, to expand upon their movie so that I can watch their movie and not feel like there are all these holes that feel unresolved, right? And I'm talking about The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
And if we can continue to do that by making great movies that follow it up, and then I can go back and it just fully changes the experience for me, that would be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I want that. So I don't want them to apologize. I want them to say, okay, we have a great story. This great story will reinforce the work that you did in this other one. And that will be fantastic. And we're so excited about that.
Further it in a meaningful way.
Exactly. And that's what he deserves. And that's what we deserve too as an audience.
Yeah.
So.
And the character of Rey deserves that as well.
Absolutely. And I don't want her to be lost in this conversation.
No, they're so tied together. And they created that idea in The Rise of Skywalker and then severed it. And it doesn't make sense. So both of those characters need this for the next step to be meaningfully continued.
We need it.
We need it really bad. And yeah, I don't know what else to say at this juncture. I'm sure other things will come up, but just the biggest...
Well, I hope other things come up. That's the thing. I hope there's more for us to follow.
It's not just me and you and Twitter wallowing. And
okay, here's what I actually don't want to happen, by the way. I don't want a Duel of the Fates situation to happen. I don't want to see this script. I want this script to be made or reworked.
Right.
Maybe you can accidentally, just like the test footage for Deadpool, you can leak some of that concept art. That's fine. Leak it, Adam. Go for it. No one will tell that it was you.
I saw a tweet that was like, and if in 3 years you see a movie come out called The Hunt for Benjamin Smith, just buy the ticket.
Exactly. But at the same time, like, I want
the Star Wars movie.
The moment that script though is leaked, that means that it's just not going to be made.
Right.
You know? So I don't want that. I want them to put that in their archives, maybe put it on the shelf if they want, take it off the shelf when they need to, and reuse it like Lucasfilm does so well, right? Rework it into different places. I don't know. I don't want it to be leaked.
I don't either.
The concept art can be leaked, whatever, but the script, no.
Yeah,
maybe the first page.
The concept art has to be leaked. I mean, if Adam Driver could leak this whole thing, then why can't the concept artist who presumably did something for this pitch? You know,
I think his name is now out there, so I don't know.
There are other channels.
You're so right.
Man, I love Rey. and Ben Solo. I love them
So do
so
I.
much, and I really hope that this is ultimately a stepping stone in the process to getting both of them back on the big screen in a big way together. And yeah, I don't know. I started toying around in my speculation brain of like an amnesia plot for for Ben, like if because,
Oh.
you know, Bob Iger's like, they just didn't. Adam said that Bob Iger said they just didn't see how Ben Solo isn't dead. And I'm like, that, as we discussed, is just ridiculous. And that is why you should not be in charge of storytelling. You know, you can
The
oversee
imaginative storytelling of Disney. I don't know.
crazy.
Disney?
Whatever. We've already kind of talked about it. So then I was like, okay, well, if we didn't do the world between worlds, what if he just like appeared? So we're like, he's just left somewhere like on Ray's doorstep, but he doesn't know who he is or anything like that. I was like, that'd be such an interesting concept, actually. Maybe not maybe not that pitch entirely, but of, you know, a classic amnesia plot. And he's like rediscovering, you know, the memories of his life and how to reconcile who he was and who he feels like he is now.
It would
as Ben
parallel
Solo.
It would parallel Ray.
You know,
It should
kind of-
parallel Ray.
No, it's not that crazy.
It's truly not that crazy.
Okay.
That is the hunt for Ben Solo.
Right. So true. The hunt for his soul, his memory,
Yeah.
his identity, and who he, once he has all of the pieces of his identity, who he's going to be, knowing all of that.
Hire us.
I mean,
Maybe it's already written.
it's already in some level of development.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. If you wanted some ideas, Bob, we could give you some ideas. This is us just off the wall. No prep, no planning. Charlotte will do some art for it. I'll make her do it.
Happy to. I'll work for free, in fact.
Yeah. All right. I can feel us kind of coming to the end of the conversation. Is there anything else we want to say about this right now?
Ben Solo lives.
Ben Solo lives. That is what I want to say also, and a good way to end the conversation. Ben Solo lives. Adam Driver believes that. So do I. Thank you guys for going on this like chatty journey with us. It's been really fun to dive like super deep back into the sequel trilogy headspace and the Ben Solo, Adam Driver headspace as well. I would love to know where you were when you heard the news that Adam Driver had pitched a Ben Solo movie. Were you rendered useless for a couple of hours like we were? Or did you have to be social like Charlotte did and play cool? Would love to know. You can find us on Twitter at Skytalkers Pod or personal handles. Charlotte's is at Clarity and mine is at Caitlin Plesher. We also have our Instagram and our TikTok. Those are great places to find us, as well as our website, skytalkers.com. And if you have a couple seconds and would like to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, it would really help us out. And if you're interested in other ways to support us, you can head on over to our Patreon and check out our reward tiers there.
I want to say a huge thank you to these patrons: Jenny, Bowles, David, Eugene, Emma, Patrick, John, Baby Springtime, Julie, Starbores, Mercedes, Ben, Greg, Caroline, Molly, Jonah, Linda, Draconius Rex, Kate, Stephen, Nikki, GMO, Emily, Gary, Carrie, Jenny, Kat, Alexis, TFL Donut, Talia, Diana, Kelly, and Tegan. Thank you so much for supporting us.
Yes, thank you so much. And until next time, may the force be with you.
May the force be with you.
This has been a 58 Ember production. For more shows, please visit the 58 Ember channel, 58ember.com, or find us at 58ember Media on socials.